1 year ago, I got fired from my consulting job at McKinsey and decided to work for myself. Today, I want to take a moment to look back and see if this ruined my life or if perhaps it turned out all right. So if you're going through something similar, which I know a lot of you are at the moment, you'll hopefully feel less alone and a bit more hopeful. So in this video, I'm going to go over my past year. I'll break it down in roughly 4 different stages that I went through. And at the end, I'm going to share how I feel about getting fired now and if I think my first year in business was a success or a failure. The first 3 months were probably the most chaotic because I didn't have a plan at all. I went after every idea that came to mind, and I also allowed myself to just enjoy my free time and follow my interests. First, I went on vacation to relax a little bit, and quite quickly I signed up for the Y Combinator co-founder matching platform, which is a platform where you can find other founders that you could join up with to start a startup. And I think I talked to maybe like 10 different potential co-founders, but I realized that the vibes were off, or rather that starting a VC startup was not for me, at least not right now. I didn't want to put myself in another situation where I'm dependent on someone else, like an investor, to give me permission to go ahead. And I also didn't like this weird obsession with having one technical co-founder and having one business co-founder, which it seems like all the discussions are around like who's gonna have which role. And I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me. Like, let's just figure out a good idea and talk to the market and then see what roles we naturally fall into. Yeah, so that entire world just seemed totally not right for me. So I kept looking. I quite quickly got my first client pretty randomly. I did some work for this book author called Paul Millard, who wrote a book called The Pathless Path, and he has this YouTube channel that teaches consulting skills to non-consultants, and I helped him work on some video ideas and video scripts. And I think that gave me a bit of false confidence into how easy the path forward would be. Then a few other things I did during these 3 months is I created my first digital product called The Ultimate Guide to Picking Your Engineering Major. I took a 6-week writing course called Rite of Passage, which had been on my bucket list for years. I also, as you might have seen, created a bunch of videos about my experience working at McKinsey and getting fired. And no, I did not make those videos during my time at McKinsey, as some people speculated in the comments. They thought that's the reason I got fired, but no, I made those videos later. I'm not that reckless. Yeah, and I just had a bunch of networking calls and coffee chats with all kinds of people that I came across. I probably had like over 100 calls. So by the end of the first 3 months, I decided that building a startup wasn't the right thing for me to do, but I did decide that I wanted to give independent consulting a shot. My plan was to basically sell the same skills that I had been using at my job as an operations consultant, helping companies improve their workflows. So that's how my first 3 months went. Yeah, by the way, if you've lost your job before or have quit your job without a plan, I'd love to hear how your first few months went in the comments. So the next 3 months, I went full steam ahead on trying to build this consulting business and getting my first client. I gave my first pitch at an in-person networking event. I got this business coach that was sponsored by the government who helped me prepare a grant application. So I basically applied to get some government funding to start my business to support me during the first couple of months. And I had to make this business plan for that application. And I already knew I was writing essentially made up stuff in there because, yeah, I just don't think business plans that are like 30-page business plans they're just unrealistic. But looking back is ridiculous what I wrote in there. So, yeah. Anyway, you do what you gotta do. I also built a website for my consulting business, which I then decided to call More Flow Solutions. Gosh. And I explored a couple different directions of who my target clients could be. Like, I started out super close to what my job was, targeting manufacturing companies, and I realized large companies like that don't really hire individual consultants like me. So I would either have to team up with other people or I would have to target smaller companies. So I did that for a while. Then I kind of moved from manufacturing away to helping businesses with workflows in general, even non-manufacturing businesses, online businesses. Although, yeah, I was getting pretty far away from my skill set at that point. And there's actually a lot of consultants out there doing this. I didn't have an edge. Yeah, so it was pretty tough. I did connect with a boutique consultancy during that time. They found me through my YouTube video where I talked about getting fired and reached out to me, and we had a conversation. And so I decided to kind of team up with them and join their network, which was really helpful. The founder of that network helped me go through my network and figure out who could be potential opportunities. And I did actually end up getting a client, although it wasn't really the kind of work I had been trying to get. So I got this client who was already working with a former colleague of mine. And this was a startup who are building a battery production knowledge platform. And I helped them create some of the content for that platform, write some articles about how batteries are produced. So by the 6-month mark, I had officially registered my business. I had won the business grant, which was a huge relief because it gave me some breathing room for another 6 months. And I had this mentorship from this boutique consultancy. And I also had this first client, like I mentioned. But I slowly realized that this consulting business would be really difficult to build because my network of potential clients was absolutely tiny. The economic situation of the industry was pretty bad at the time. I think still is. And even established consultants were having trouble finding work. And there I was with very minimal experience in the field trying to get my business off the ground. I just wasn't set up for success. So I decided to take a step back and rethink my options. And I ended up creating this sort of what I called my DIY business accelerator for myself, which was a 12-month plan to try to go all the way from market research to landing my first client in whatever new business opportunity I would then find in that, hopefully. And it did work, actually. I landed my first 2 clients from the research calls I was doing. And the business direction I ended up with was basically helping independent consultants use content marketing to attract clients online, because that's what people had asked me during these research interviews. 5 months later, I had worked with my first 3 clients and collected testimonials from them. I had designed a consulting package and made a website. I had published 4 YouTube videos on a new channel to promote that business, and I was posting regularly on LinkedIn. And then a few weeks ago, I suddenly had this painful realization. And the realization was that I was building the wrong business again. My heart just wasn't in the business. It didn't feel purposeful enough. And the more I worked with clients, the more I felt out of my depth. Like I couldn't help them as well as I wanted. I had gone into this business because I was trying to listen to the market and see what people in my network wanted to buy. But I glanced over how meaningful it would be to me, and I overestimated how well my content creation skills would translate to that target market. I just don't have enough of an unfair advantage and passion to make this business successful. I think if I had just one of these, I could make it work, but lacking both is kind of a death sentence. It was really hard to accept this after I had just spent 5 months building this new business, and because I thought I should be much further along after 1 year in business. But I know it's the right decision and necessary to make space for a better fit option. Now, I don't yet know what I'm going to build instead, but I did find a lot of opportunities over the past few weeks that I don't think I would have been able to recognize if I had still been head down on my previous business. I'm currently exploring a bunch of different directions, and I decided to dive back into making lots of YouTube videos because it's better to take action than to try and find your path by just thinking through it alone. So basically, after 12 months, I'm almost back to square one, just a little bit wiser and a lot happier. Now that you know how my first year as a freelancer went, let's talk about how I feel about getting fired now and whether I think this was a success or a failure. Honestly, I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I had stayed at that job. It feels so far removed from where I am now and who I am now. What I know for sure is that I wouldn't be nearly as happy, and I know that because I was pretty miserable at my past job most of the time. And I honestly might have never started a business or tried working for myself if I hadn't gotten fired. Losing my job put me in this situation where I had basically nothing to lose, and that's an amazing opportunity to go after your dreams. So I'm 100% glad I lost my job. It might be one of the best things that ever happened to me. Now, am I where I thought I would be No, not at all. Not even a little bit. The person I was 1 year ago would probably have considered this a failure because I still don't have a clear direction for my life or a strong business idea I'm working on. But back then, I also thought that I would be happy with any business that would make me money and not require me to travel. And I learned that that's just not the case at all. Purpose is a lot more important to me than I thought. And since I'm in this for the long term, I think figuring this out after just 1 year of business is pretty good. I still have the rest of my life to build something cool, and I'm excited to see what that's going to be. Now, I definitely made a lot of mistakes in my first year of business, which I made a dedicated video about. So if you want to learn from them, to avoid them on your own journey, you can click right here to watch that video.